I hope you'll come. I hope you'll join us on the 17th. Right? Okay. So next we have a discussion. Are we on to discussions yet?
We are now, Jason, yeah.
Okay. So this is a discussion and no one's here from the applicant of the Fearless Goal. Is that correct?
We don't.
Okay.
They weren't planning to come to attend tonight's meeting to give an update, but they have given me an update internally, as well as I received a response from LPC.
Yeah, who are you corresponding with at LPC, by the way? Just wondering.
It's the person who recently became the new community affairs
So
associate.
that's just a speaker box for someone else.
Right, yeah. So after our last meeting from October, I wanted to follow up and check in if the updates or any information as to the correspondence that the committee had asked for, just to have that in writing in terms of if the review process back in 2018 was followed through appropriately, and whether or not a public hearing was held, and if not, why was it not held? And in future steps, just have correspondence either from LPC or the other respective agencies, including the Public Design Commission, just giving us that kind of confirmation that the applicant indeed followed through the steps appropriately, so that the Landmarks Committee could then identify what the next step would be, which is in this scenario, pass a resolution hopefully this month, because as you all remember, their permit is expiring by the end or before the end of this month. So Jason, I don't know if you want me to kind of go ahead and just provide the update word for word.
Let me try and summarize that, what the email that you sent, and that would be to say that Landmark said that the nature of the original permit was temporary, therefore it didn't require a public hearing at that time. And then any extension of that permit also doesn't require a public hearing. Now, it sounds like after you go for more than 3 year worth of extension, then you have to have a public hearing. And that's why they came to us this time. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, because it's temporary, because it was originally temporary, that was also some sort of a workaround from the Public Design Commission. Is that correct also?
Well, because it was because it was temporary, the applicants weren't required yet to present to PDC, because PDC doesn't review proposals to install artwork for less than a year. And so that being said, if the installation is on city property, then LPC rules that this sort of application or item would be reviewed at staff level only. And the staff at staff level, the staff would had issued 2 additional temporary permits for this installation. And then, according to what was said in that email, after 3 approvals, the applicant would then have to seek approval from the full commission. So that's why they came before us last month. Because this time around,
could you read the email?
Sure. Okay. So let me go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we're going out of order here with the meeting agenda. Is that correct?
Correct. We have one last item after this.
Okay. I just want to make sure that one last item doesn't get lost this evening. Thank you.
So based on what was written in the email, Fearless Girl was installed in its current location in the street bed on Broad Street pursuant to a temporary approval issued by LPC staff. Under Section 2-05 of LPC's rules, staff can approve a temporary installation for up to 1 year. The applicant was not required to present to the Public Design Commission because the PDC does not review proposals to install artwork for less than a year. If the installation is on city property, then LPC rules allow the staff to issue 2 additional temporary permits for that installation, which was done in this case. After 3 approvals, the applicant must seek approval from the full commission if it wants the installation permanently or for a specified period of time. The applicant has applied to the LPC, but the application remains incomplete. Once complete, it will be placed on an LPC public hearing agenda, and then it is expected that PDC will review it.
Okay.
That was information in the update provided.
Yeah, so I would like to comment on that, but I would like the board to say. May I?
Yeah, hold on, but no. Let's just say no one else on the committee has a comment. Todd's going to come and jump in now.
I want to thank Jennifer for doing that homework for us. So,
thank you, Jennifer. Yes, agreed. Okay, Todd, you're going. Go.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key operative statement there is the design commission has to approve it. So they said that the design commission does have to approve it. So I don't see a reason to actually have a landmarks approval before a design commission approval, right? Because presumably the design commission would modify the work, right? Or would work with the artist, work with whoever the applicant is to decide, okay, it's gonna have this detail, this or that. Now we approve it. It's the Public Design Commission. And then the landmarks could look at that proposal when it's in its final form through Public Design Commission. It doesn't make sense to have a permanent landmarks approval or to recommend a permanent landmarks approval if it's going to need design commission approval. So to me, that is total backwards. And I don't think there's any ever precedent in the history of public art to do it this way. It's a public artwork. It goes through the design commission. And if there's a landmarks implication, that would be solved when the work is complete in terms of what is being presented. Secondly, they also are kind of disrespecting the committee because they had said they were going to give that immediately and clarify it. So I think they should. Well, anyway, that's an explanation. We'll have to review it. But I wanted to report something else, that I did a FOIL request from the LPC about this docket item, and they actually gave me a contract from DOT that sets the premise of the work, and it reveals a lot of things that they've said are false. For instance, it says actually in their contract with DOT that the design commission has to approve it after 1 year. It's explicit. It's a line in the contract. So that they're misleading, or at least they're contradicting their own contract there. Secondly, it gives the artist all of these rights. It says that the artist has to make decisions about whether it's moved, what its future. It says she has 100% intellectual property. It says that there must be a sign recognizing her name. By the way, this is a contract that they have withheld from the artist. Can you believe that? DOT made a contract that has all these rules about the artist, about her rights, and they've kept it secret from her for 5 years. It's one of the most outrageous things that I've ever seen the city do to an artist. The artist is here. I mean, I don't know if she wants to speak. We were hoping that finally we'd get an explanation from State Street or the city about how this outrageous disrespect has been occurring and how this process can work. But she wants to keep it permanently. I mean, she can say whatever she wants, but there is a process for it to be permanent, and it's not about landmarks. It's about the LPC. And I really urge this committee and this community board not to figure out some way to facilitate a very blatantly illegal action that all public art experts that I know see as illegal and has no precedent. Thank you.
So, may I speak?
Yes, who is this? Who is this
Kristen.
person?
I don't know how to raise my hand on
That's
your
fine.
system,
Just
but I'm the
announce yourself.
artist of
Wonderful.
Fearless Girl. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy that Todd has gotten me up to speed on all of the permitting. It is true that there is an agreement that was signed 10 weeks after unveil between State Street and myself that required them to keep me up to date on permitting issues with the art prevention program at DOT. I got a text from a friend 10 days ago with the article about Fearless Girl's permit coming to a close on November 29th and was appalled. Even further, when Todd sent this agreement between DOT, I want you all, for 5 years, I've kept it to myself. I wanted nothing negative around Fearless Girl. But at the time of the unveiling, the way Fearless Girl came about was very
Yes.
unusual.
Well, do quickly because Jamila's going to want to. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So the way Fearless Girl came about was very unusual. So I was contacted in November 2016 by McCann Advertising. State Street was not brought in until 2 days prior to completing the clay model. We unveiled the work, it went viral, and the artwork was assumed by State Street, entered into the DOT program. And at that time, we repeatedly requested to see a copy of the document, and that request was rejected. So I'm very happy to finally see this. You may be aware that we are in an open dispute, State Street and myself. It is not over intellectual property issues. I own the copyright on Fearless Girl. State Street owns the trademark name Fearless Girl. The issues over who can use the artwork and how the artwork is used. The work was to stand for the following diversity goals. I did listen to the community board video from October, and I can see that a lot of you are only hearing the message of State Street, which is board diversity, and in fact, it's just a very small aspect of the equality goals behind Fearless Girl. And she stands for equality and for equal pay and for equal education, for the general well-being of women, for the education of young women, and for education in the workplace, for the prevention of prejudice. In my opinion, I think that Fearless Girl is actually a tangible symbol for the women's movement that must remain. So I'm here. I want you all to know I'm willing to work with the city in whatever capacity to ensure Fearless Girl can remain as a symbol for equality. I think that what I could do, if well, it sounds to me that they actually did follow the protocol of the city, Todd. It is true. I saw the agreement. They clearly stated after 11 months, this would be put before the Public Design Commission, and it was not. I don't know what happened. All I was told was that State Street was working with the mayor's office to ensure that Fearless Girl became a public landmark. And in our agreement of May 2017, they assumed the artwork. I agreed to that. And I agreed not to dictate where the artwork would be placed, but their requirement was to keep me apprised of permitting developments, which has not happened. The other thing that I want to say is when I saw this article, I mean, this maintenance agreement, it was called, I was appalled because at the time of unveil, first of all, I never heard about State Street until 2 days prior to completing the clay model. Secondly, I never met anybody from State Street until the day we unveiled. I went to the sculpture thinking I would be interviewed like every other unveiling I have done, and was surprised to see a woman from State Street being interviewed by the press. I love the diversity goals, but what ensued after that unveil was that 3 people were vying for copyright: the mold maker, State Street, myself. The mold was withheld from me and by an agent twice removed from McCann Advertising, and State Street told me that they had instructed the DOT to withhold a preservation scan from me until I signed an agreement with them, which in my opinion was coercion. I want Fearless Girl to remain the positive symbol that I believe she is. So I kept my mouth shut. In addition, the night we installed the artwork, which was the night of March 6th, we met at 11 p.m. They shoved an NDA, the McCann people, under my nose and said, sign it. I had no reason not to. I signed it. In the agreement of May 2017, there was a non-disparagement clause against State Street that was included. When I signed that, I did not understand that telling the truth could be perceived as disparagement. So with all of this going on, I was very desperate. And I called the legal department at the Department of Transportation. I don't want to name call, but I spoke with a man and a woman. The woman's name appears on this maintenance agreement. They both told me, I told them there was no agreement between State Street and I needed access to the work, and they declined that. I then went to a certain congresswoman, desperate. She said, we don't want to make anything negative around this work. I said, I agree. She sent me to another woman, who then sent me to another person, who then rerouted me to the Department of Transportation, where they declined my access to my own artwork. So these are the parameters under which the permitting was garnered for the artwork. I want to ensure that she remains. I think it's important for the public entities, the government entities that make up New York's permitting process for public art to understand what happened. So State Street, they have breached their commitment to uphold those goals that we agreed this artwork would stand for. So I'm telling you now, I can provide you with an artist's proof, if it should come to that, that the city would actually be able to own. And I can start my video. I understood that the practice here was not to be visible. So up to you.
What's the content of the video? Like, it's the story of what you just told us?
Oh, no, I'm just saying video so you can see my face.
Oh, no, that's,
Welcome.
I mean,
We'd love to see you.
well, yes.
Okay,
But-
all right, well,
It's
2
up to
hours
you,
ago,
though.
I don't know. There I am. Hi.
Welcome. Well,
So how are you
Welcome.
guys?
wait.
So the point is, State Street is a large and important organization with a lot of money that has the ability to wield great impact in regards to diversity. And the fact that they have this conversation going, that they've started this conversation, is excellent. But there is research that shows you need at least 3 women on a board to impact a decision that would then impact increased profitability. So there are questions I have about that. The point is, it is my artwork, and I wanted to use it to create an educational program. I wanted to use it to start Fearless Girl Awards, a black tie event in New York City that would be talking about the STEAM studies, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, that help people to be better leaders. So I was told, okay, well, you can do an awards ceremony. You just can't call it Fearless Girl Awards, which is ridiculous. So I did relinquish trademark, but I relinquished my trademark filing in order to assert the copyright. I did not have money to fight State Street in the courtroom, and I still don't have it. This lawsuit has cost almost $2.7 million. And yes, I've sold the work for a lot of money, but it doesn't cover that expense. So that's the reality.
Do you feel that they hijacked your message?
Oh my God, they hijacked it. They
Realize it.
bulldozed me, really and truly.
They took it and turned it into their own advantage.
To their brand. And it wasn't, I found an email last night under Todd's suggestion, and I think it was a good idea. I wrote a letter that I sent today to the LPC, the PDC, and the mayor's office in hopes that they will kind of stop and take a look at this maintenance agreement. In the agreement, State Street acts as a power of attorney for me. Without my knowledge, they make, assurances to the city, and they are named as a contact for me without my knowledge. And that bothers me a lot. So I am coming forward at the risk of a second claim filed against me. But you should also be aware that that claim that was filed against me, it came when my clients in Australia, a law firm who had advocated for 20 years for equal pay, put an announcement in the paper saying that they and two superannuation funds, financial organizations only found in Australia, were going to unveil a casting of Fearless Girl at Federation Square in Melbourne. We told them not to use logos. They used logos. I agreed not to sell to a financial. I did not. But I never, ever agreed to bar the some 60 million people who work in finance from participating in the ideals or an unveiling of Fearless Girl. You understand? So the point is the work was to be shared with all of us for good. The United Nations wants to use her. Plan International, a children's advocacy group in over 75 countries, wanted to use an image of Fearless Girl to promote the Day of the Girl Child. And after 2 months of lobbying, Fearless Girl, State Street declined that use through a co-approval clause they snuck in at the last minute. I spent another 2 months with another lawyer trying to find a legal loophole to allow them to use it. Yes, were you going to ask something?
Are you finished? I mean, I have some comments.
I could go forever.
I know that.
I'm
Uh,
mad.
Well, I don't know, Jason, can I ask a question or make a comment?
Sure, yes, please. Let's question everything.
Okay, so I'm Laura Starr. I'm a landscape architect on the community board. And, I'm sorry for all the crazy stuff you've been through with your artwork. I still think, as a landscape architect on the community board, there is a question of where is the best place for your sculpture and is it appropriate where it is? And I think it does need to go through the same process that all other artwork has to go through to get cited, at a major historic intersection of the city. And I think there's a whole question is it appropriate to have any artwork there? Is it appropriate to have your artwork there? And I would like to see that process happen. So it's not, specifically about your artwork. It's just about a kind of urban design and historic preservation process and, doing the right thing by the longer arc of history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily directing that towards you. I'm directing it towards
the committee.
And, I'm not on this committee, but I am at this meeting because I feel, really strongly about this. I actually have a lot of issues with it at that location. My office is on that street and I find it, I have issues with it being across from the stock exchange, and I actually, walk a different route home from my office so I don't have to go by the girl thumbing her nose at the stock exchange, even though I'm quite a feminist. So that's all I have to say.
Oh, Laura, thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
Excuse me, Vicki, could you expand on exactly why it bothers you that she's facing off against the stock exchange? Do you think it's disrespectful somehow, or can you put words to that?
Yeah, I do think it's disrespectful.
Well, you understand that the message is that there need to be women.
You know what? I'm a feminist. I'm a mother. I run a business. I employ 25 people. I don't feel like I need to make everything political, and that's just my opinion. I find it really offensive that this girl is basically saying F you to the stock exchange. And, I think as long as we're all benefiting from a democratic country that still has, this economy that is, relatively, not socialist yet. And, for those of us, like, I basically feel if you have a pension fund invested in any stocks, that you're part of the stock exchange, and it's an institution that we're all living by. And, I'm not a Republican. I'm not like a financial person. I'm, in the art world, but I find it really offensive in that location. I think it's a great work of art. I agree with the message. I disagree with it really strongly in that location. And I feel that it needs to go through a real process.
Yeah. Well, if it went through the design commission, that's what they would work with Miss Visbal on. The
Right.
problem is that this, the current understanding is done in a non-legal way where it's
As a
Agreeing,
act.
I'm just stating that I'm agreeing that it needs to go through the proper process. The artist, I was married to an artist. I'm living with an artist. My mother's an artist. Artists needed to be treated properly. The whole thing is cockamamie.
Yeah.
The whole thing is cockamamie. And all we can do on the community board is do right by land use and process and what our role is. And in my role on the community board, I'm supporting it going through a proper process and finding a proper location. And I, as somebody who does a lot of public landscape architecture, I'm happy to brainstorm about that, but I don't think where it is right now is a worthy location in any way.
Well, can I respond to that?
Please, I'm
Brief-
sorry, Jason, it's getting a little late, so
I
yes,
don't,
go ahead.
it's been you and me, Kristen. It's really a broader, like, if you want to have coffee and discuss it, we could go.
I might be there next week. Okay, I know you want to move on and it is late, but based on where we initiated the unveil, it does make sense. I think you could put Fearless Girl anywhere in the city. We've already unveiled her. The point is taken. She stands for empowerment. She stands for standing up to the bull in your life, whatever that is. Sexual harassment, not getting promoted, the lack of equal pay, and on and on and on. The message in front of the stock exchange is simply that women need to be treated fairly and equally.
Right, and that message can happen in a lot of different places. So I think we should move on. I mean, this is not my committee,
Yeah,
but
we could talk about this forever.
right, and I'm happy to, and I would like to meet you, and I admire your work. I just
Thank
don't, I'm just speaking out against the location and against the process, which, unfortunately, you were also part of the kookiness of it. So, anyway, that's it. I'm gonna lower my hand. Thank you for letting me speak.
Laura, thank you so much. I had almost an identical census last when the project was presented, almost verbatim. And so thank you so much for coming on tonight. I definitely agree with what you're saying.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Kristen.
My pleasure. I will say this. For State Street, in their defense, I think they followed the lead of the mayor's office. So I don't think there was any intent to circumvent anything, but they are heavily invested in this artwork and they have built a campaign around it, which makes it mandatory for the work to remain for them. And it's in their vested interest to place it in front of the New York Stock Exchange.
Well, that, if you want to get into politics, I really have issues with State Street determining what artwork goes in my community. I'm just going to say that. I think it's appalling. And this is not a statement on you or your artwork. And
Right.
I'm going to get off this now. This is way too political for me. Bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Jason, what are we doing with this?
Well, I'm just going to make a closing statement, and that is that, it doesn't have to be the closing statement, but I also appreciate the statue and artists and female artists in this world of even art. But I also, as a preservationist, it's not about the stock exchange building. It's about we're already ripping down statues of Thomas Jefferson in Lower Manhattan, and there was never a statue on this very old and historic street. So to put one there in 2021 of any kind, it just doesn't seem appropriate for that block. So anyway, and besides all that, it seems like, we keep getting more nuggets of just like really kind of unfavorable information about the applicant and how they proceeded with this from the beginning. And so, and this isn't a resolution. So we get more information every time we talk about it. We wrote a resolution about it already for the landmarks and voted on it. So I'm not even sure if there's an action that, that we should be taking further than what we already did last month. maybe Todd has something that he could suggest since he's, you know, very active on this. Otherwise, you know, I'll bring it up I'll bring up the new information at our full board meeting in our committee presentation and see where it goes from there, unless
I mean,
anybody has another idea.
At some point, you know, I would love to see the community board say that, you know, the Public Design Commission, the mayor's office should work with the parties involved to try to either, you know, I don't know necessarily keep it, but at least cooperate and force a consensus and cooperate. I think the status quo is really harmful to everyone. State Street is very protective of it. The artist feels their interests are harmed. Community boards having no say. There's this fear that it's going to be removed. I feel like the community board could maybe potentially just have a resolution that says, let's be fair to everyone. Let's not be suing people. Let's not be violating the law. Let's you know, work together to do something positive. I think it's a real tragedy that this has become such a fight, which has a positive intent. And that's why I would love to see the community board just encourage the city to solve the problems and be a broker rather than pick favorites.
Well, I think that's what Jason was saying we were doing by turning it back to, you know, a procedure that is in place, right? You know, we can only do so much.
Right.
But like I said, we are putting it back saying, hey, put it back in the right track. And I will just say this in last comment here. It's odd that the image itself, it was a young, vulnerable female, right, standing up, asking to be noticed. And then it seems like the whole process has been manhandled. I love men. I work with men all day long. I have, you know, I don't want to go on about that, but I would say that this was manhandled, and the mayor and State Street, which is probably predominantly run and ruled by men. So this is the word dichotomy is ridiculous, right? What this statue stands for and represents is now being, you know, hijacked by this group of men, and it just seems ridiculous. So anyway, on that note, we've beaten this to death.
You know, what has happened to me is kind of what we placed
Manhandled.
there in the first place to stand up against.
Yes.
It's really, really awful. And for that matter, even though Fearless Girl was birthed in finance, I don't see her as financial per se. I mean,
Precisely, and we feel it. I feel it. Laura feels it, which was our problem.
She went nuts on the social media. It wasn't about board diversity. It was about, you know, oh my God, the little girl struck a chord with me. So I listened to your guys' meetings. I just want you to know that, you know, women are there are more women. Okay. So women are the future decision makers. That was part of the message. That's why we created a child, because the message was, hey, tomorrow you better be giving this woman the respect that she's due, because she's going to be making our decisions. That was the point.
Yeah, they hijacked.
And it was really, you know, I made that thing in 2.5 weeks. It's not about this is a classic piece of art. This is a piece of art that became a social message. And because she's a social message that impacts not only women, but men, I believe she needs to remain. And I will do everything in my power to make that happen. I don't want to usurp State Street, but at the same time, I need to reclaim all of the ideals that this artwork stands for.
Yes, you
And
do.
they have been hijacked. Yes.
Yes.
Word.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
I'm so happy to be here. Very nice to meet you guys. Let me know if there's anything that I can do.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, we have
Last
one.
item.
Yeah.
Sure. Jason, before we move on, I just noticed Gerald's hand raised. Unless
Oh, I apologize. I'm having this new format. I can't tell whether it's up or down.
we're all getting used to it.
Todd, thanks for everything.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay, bye.